AOC doesn't want you to know certain things about the $15 minimum wage. And there's a reason she doesn't want you to know them. Welcome to Escaping the Echo Chamber. So the American Rescue Plan has passed. However, the $15 minimum wage is not attached to it. That hasn't stopped the proponents of the $15 minimum wage from going all out trying to garner up more support from the people and to pressure other politicians into supporting and voting for the $15 minimum wage, a national $15 minimum wage. But the main point that they're trying to pretend is that there's no downside, that everything's going to be hunky-dory, it's going to end poverty, and roses and kittens for everyone in perpetuity. That's not the truth. And so when I start going against this and pushing back, people will say, hey, well, this is, people are not being paid enough. People are unable to survive. They're being given starvation wages. They deserve to be paid more. And if you don't believe this, you don't value human beings and their lives. And I'm like, no, don't do that. Don't equate a person's job to their self-worth. Because I don't do that. And there's many reasons why I don't do it. Now, people on the right will try to equate, certain people on the right will try to equate your job and your self-worth so that they can dismiss you, so that they can view you as inconsequential and not to be paid attention to. People on the left will try to do the same thing for a different reason. They will try to do it to justify bad policies. They will try to do it to get you to support their bad policies. They will try to do it to get you to think that you are your job, to get you to think that that's all you are and that's all you can ever be. That's why that's so dangerous. Because whether you're a janitor, a sex worker, a fast food worker, your job is something you do. Your job is just something you do. Who you are, your self-worth, is completely unrelated to that. And that's something you need to remember so you don't get caught in this false reality that it makes sense for you to stay at a job and to become the job and to think that that's all you can ever be and all you can ever do. When people are advocating for a $15 minimum wage, whether it's statewide, national, my first question is, okay, if there are people who are not making enough money, who cannot survive on the money that they're getting paid from whatever the job is, why don't they get a better job? And people get offended, people get upset, people will go ballistic and say, no, like they shouldn't have to. And I'm like, wait, but if I'm not getting paid enough, then I should be doing something different. And it's not that I'm less of a person because I'm making low money, but it's because I have a problem that I should be saying, wait a minute, what can I do to solve this problem? And so if these politicians are not trying to give you the tools to solve your problems, you have to stop and ask your question, why? Why are they not saying, here's what you can do to solve your problems? Because that's where the power is. The power is in my ability to solve my problems. Because if I need to come to you to solve my problems, I don't have the power. You do. But they will try to obfuscate and change the subject to anything else to distract you from the fact that they don't want you to have the power to solve your problems, so that you need to go to them and give them more money, more power, because they will always say, oh, we need more to be able to help you. But that's what they want. They want more power over your life so that you will continually need to come to them to help you. That's the first thing why it irritates me. I'm like, no, I'm not calling these people garbage. I'm not calling them that. And they will try to put words in my mouth that didn't come out of my mouth and aren't in my mind. I'm saying, because it's the same thing I did when I was at a minimum wage job, that sucked. It sucked. So I was working at Walgreens, Dwayne Reed, which was owned by the same company, Dwayne Reed by Walgreens, making minimum wage, wasn't even getting 40 hours a week. Now I signed up for full-time work, not getting 40 hours a week, don't have a set schedule. I think it was changing every week. Every week we get a new schedule. So like you can't even really have any long-term plans because you don't know what days you're working and what days you're not. Additionally, like I said, you're not getting 40 hours a week. So they were giving us like 26, 30 some hours. In fact, originally it was less than 30 hours. I said, hey, I didn't sign up for part-time work. Oh, so then they went ahead and gave me some more hours to get it up to like 32 hours. And I was like, this is some nonsense. I actually had to go to a separate store to get more hours, and it still wasn't a full 40. Come to find out, I'm talking to somebody who'd been there for like 4 years. And she's like, oh, no, they do this. This is what they do as a routine, even to me, because they don't want to pay overtime. They want to make sure that just in case somebody calls out sick and you need to stay extra, you don't get more hours that add up to over 40 hours, and now they have to pay you overtime. I says, wow, really? I'm like, and you've been here 4 years. Why? Why would you put up with that? Because at this point, I've been there for less than a month, and I'm not putting up with that. And I'm not intending to put up with that. So what I did was continue to do some looking. And within 30 days of starting that job, I was on a job interview at another job. A portion of the interview goes something like this. Oh, so you're working at Dwayne Reed and you've been there since, you've only been there a month? I'm like, yes. And so now she's looking at me. I says, yes, I signed up for full-time work. They're not giving me 40 hours a week, but that's what I want. At least 40 hours a week. So she goes, oh, okay. Because now I'm not telling her, oh, well, they're not paying me enough money. I'm telling her something that she wants to hear, and it is true. I'm here to work. I want to work. I don't want these, like this kiddie games that they're playing, trying to cut out hours. Like, I want full-time work, and like overtime, not a problem. I'm with it. And so at the end of the interview, when she asked me, do I have any questions? I said, yes. Do you, if I get this position, will I be getting 40 hours? She says, yes. You'll be getting 9-hour days, 1 hour unpaid lunch, 5 days a week, and the possibility of overtime. I says, excellent. Less than about a month later, I'm at this new job. So it can be done. Now, the fact is, there may be situations where people need more resources to be able to move to a better job. That's what we need to be focused on. How to not get people stuck at garbage jobs, so that if you don't really need the money and you're like, hey, it's a crappy job, it's like not. I have no power. I'm not really being respected. But hey, I just need some change for whatever. Or I'm just trying to kill some time. There's a myriad of reasons why somebody might do that job for a short time. And hey, that option should be available to them. But if you need to make money, if you need to provide for yourself, if you need to provide for your family, you should be able to have the options of going somewhere else, of getting a better paying job, and not just a better paying job, but a better source of income. That's key, because jobs are not the only source of income, and that's one of the things we have to get out of our mindsets. We need to get, and that's what the $15 minimum wage debate is not dealing with. It wants to obscure the fact that the best sources of income are not from jobs. They keep talking about how people are stuck at these low-wage jobs, they're getting starvation wages, and one of the things that they're not talking about is, why are they stuck at these jobs? You see, from 5 to 18, the government has you. The government has mandated you to go to school, And they're supposed to be training you. They're supposed to be educating you. They're supposed to be gearing you up and giving you the tools needed for success. So why, after 13 years of government schooling, are so many people unable to provide for themselves and their families? Why, after 13 years of government schooling, are the only jobs that people can get are low-wage, starvation wage jobs that are no or low-skilled jobs? Why is that? What are they doing? Why does it take 13 years to teach you nothing? Why is it taking 13 years just wasting your time and preparing you to be nothing more than a wage slave? That's what they don't want to talk about. They do not want to talk about their failures from all the way from before you get to this starvation wage job and everything that's happened before that. They don't want to discuss that, because then they have to address their failures. They have to address, and that's why the point is, when I'm asking these questions, people think I'm attacking low-wage workers. No, I'm not. I'm fighting for low-wage workers because I don't want them to be low-wage workers. And for the people that want you to make a $15 minimum wage, I don't want you making minimum wage, period. Whether it's $7.25 or $15, why should you be stuck at minimum wage? And they keep saying this is about a black and brown issue. Black and brown people are the, yeah. So why do they want black and brown people stuck at the bottom? The fact is, these schools are failing at every level imaginable. At every level imaginable, these schools are demonstrating themselves to be utterly useless. But they don't want to talk about it. They don't want to deal with the fact that they suck, that they are not doing their jobs. Actually, they are doing their jobs. They're just not telling you what their job is. Their job is to use the schools as training grounds for obedient employees. That's their job. Their job is to create a massive workforce for these corporations. That's their job. But they will pretend to be working for you. They will pretend to be looking out for you. They're lying. Because one of the things I will constantly say to people is, why aren't we training people to get better jobs from school? I mean, not just now specifically for people who've already graduated, but why aren't our schools, why aren't your schools, why aren't their schools teaching people to run their own businesses, teaching people to be entrepreneurs and bosses instead of minimum wage employees? Why aren't schools teaching that? Why aren't schools teaching financial education, business management? Why aren't they teaching people to write business plans instead of resumes? Why not? In fact, I ran on this. This is one of the things I ran on, and a lot of people were like, wow, that sounds great. However, there were some people who had an issue with it. And I was surprised because I didn't expect this response, but one of the issues I had of it, well, the issue that was raised when I brought up this plan was, but who will do the minimum wage jobs? Like, it took a lot in me to restrain myself at that moment. Because that opinion, that question, demonstrated the most utter contempt for the lives of the people that these progressives claim to care about. Who will do it wasn't about the quality of your life. It was about the quality of their life and who's going to do the jobs these bastards don't want to do. These scumbags don't want to do. They want to make sure somebody's there to give them their avocado toast. That's what utterly infuriates me, because I still see that question now. To this day, I will see these scumbags will make the question, oh, well, somebody has to do it. No, nobody has to do it. Right now, technology is making so many jobs obsolete. Awesome. Because there shouldn't be masses of people stuck doing jobs nobody else wants to do that aren't being paid well. And even if you are being paid well, you shouldn't be stuck at these jobs because you have no other option. You shouldn't be stuck without power, without any agency over your life because somebody wants to have somebody else do a job they don't want to do, and have somebody serving them at Starbucks. They want somebody cleaning their house. Like, they've got good messaging. But when you start asking questions, that's when you start seeing beyond their messaging. That's when their talking points start falling apart, and you realize that their aim isn't what they're telling you it is. These are more broader points. Let's take a look at some of the things that AOC has specifically said, and let's address them. So this is one of the things she does, to criticize anybody giving advice about getting educated around personal finance. So she's trying to make it seem as if people are saying you should be ashamed not to have personal finance knowledge. No. It's education, and if you don't have it, the advice is to get it. Why? Because it helps you. So knowing things helps us. So she's doing the same thing that they accuse Republicans of doing, of trying to discourage education among, middle America and their constituents. And she's trying to say, like, it's like either you know it, like you shouldn't be ashamed, like you shouldn't be ashamed not to know it. And I'm like, it's not even about shame. It's about knowing things. It's about having skills that help you improve your life. It's about, because personal finance is something everybody has to do. So like it should be a fundamental skill that we develop, because it's necessary for us to survive. But then when you start talking about, like, this guy is talking about credit reports, and so why isn't this stuff taught in school? Why don't they teach us how credit works, how to use credit, how to improve our credit scores? Quick story. My credit score was like 513. I didn't know how to get my credit score up. So I wound up watching a YouTube video. Jay Morrison, about like a 30-minute YouTube video. Watched this 30-minute YouTube video. Said, okay, I'm going to do what Jay Morrison told me to do. I did it. 6 months later, my credit score is no longer 513. It's 740. 30 minutes. Jay Morrison taught me in 30 minutes what the public education system didn't teach me in 13 years. This is insidious, what she's doing. Every time there's a solution, she tries to tear it down. Anytime there's a solution to this problem that doesn't involve giving her power, that doesn't involve turning to her, she's going to tell you, oh, it doesn't work, it won't work. Oh, it's a bad idea. Oh, it's too expensive. She's trying to stop people from finding solutions to the problems. And that is so utterly insidious. And so, no, there are ways to educate yourself that don't involve going thousands of dollars in debt. Today's technology, and before you can get to today's technology, there's programs already in place. There's programs already to get increased education provided by the government. So you can look to, there's programs that will teach computer skills and get you computer certifications. Like that right there is like, and like I said, if you're somebody who's a low-wage worker, you're eligible for these programs. You can go get them. So what she's talking about is clearly a lie. But beyond the government programs, today's technology gives us access to things online and education online at so much cheaper cost than your colleges and your universities. And that's actually why colleges and universities are worried, because they realize they're becoming obsolete. The government is trying to save them, but that's a discussion for another time. But you've got these online programs, online educational programs that are so much cheaper and won't put you thousands of dollars in debt. In fact, you actually have some online programs that are free. You have something like the Khan Academy, which can teach you for free skills you need to upgrade. Stop listening to people who don't have your best interests at heart. And she is one of those people. And I'm seeing this from a lot of these proponents and advocates for the $15 minimum wage because they don't want to address the solutions that don't include raising the minimum wage. They don't want you to have a solution for yourself. The fact that 40% of Americans can't afford a $400 emergency is a problem. And these 40% of Americans aren't minimum wage workers. They're not all minimum wage workers. That goes to financial education. And this is what they don't want to talk about. This is why we're in such bad shape. Because we're spending 13 years in government schooling, and government schooling is intentionally not teaching us financial education. Workers are often paid less than the value they create. This doesn't take into consideration why productivity is increasing. Productivity has increased because of technology. And guess what has happened because of technology? Jobs have gotten easier. That's why wages are so low comparatively. But they won't tell you this. There was a time when a cashier actually had to do the math and calculate everything themselves. Now you've got these computers that will just do everything automatically. In some cases, like you don't even need to. So there was a time when you would have to physically ring up the charges for everything in a cash register. Now you just scan it. The price automatically registers, automatically adds everything up. But the point is, technology continues to advance. And this is the warning. Don't get stuck in a rut. Don't sit here and think, okay, I'm just going to keep doing this because, like in the example of the cashier, self-checkouts. Now, the job is going away. So if we don't move forward with the times, we will get left behind. But people like this don't mind that. Because once your job is obsolete, and you're like, well, what do I do now? You'll have to come back to them. Yes, she did go back to New York to bartend, and this was really interesting. Guess where she didn't go back to bartend? At her old job at the coffee shop. Coffee shop is was a spot in Union Square, New York. You know why she didn't go back there? Because it went out of business. Do you know why it went out of business? The owner told us why. It went out of business because he couldn't afford to pay the increased minimum wage. Because here in New York, we have a $15 minimum wage. He said it's just too much money. He can't afford to pay his employees that. That's why. So she knows people personally that will put her out of work by this $15 minimum wage. She doesn't want you to know that though, and she's trying to bring it national. $10 an hour is not legislative poverty. That's a lie. Poverty. One person, a single person, making $12,880 is above the poverty. Is making more than $12,880 dollars is above the poverty line. $10 an hour will get you about $20,000 a year. It's not a lot of money, not wealth, but that just lets you see this whole goal of just getting past poverty is a nothing. It's the word poverty makes it sound like you succeeded in something, but you actually didn't. There's way better things to goals to try to achieve, and building wealth, helping people achieve financial independence. Those are goals that they're not fighting for. These progressives do not want you to be financially independent. They do not want you to be independent. They want you to be dependent upon them so they have the power. They will keep using language that makes it seem like they're fighting for you, but they're fighting for themselves. Like I said, that there's a word. You should have dignity and power. But you know how you have power? If you have the ability to go where you want to. If you have the ability to choose which job you take. If you have the ability to tell a boss, listen, this is what I want, and if you're not willing to pay me this, I will go somewhere else where they will pay me. What do you need for that? Skills. In fact, power is even when you don't even need a boss. When you say, listen, I can do this my own. But let me give you an example of how that worked. I was working at the job I went to after Dwayne Reed. I get to that job. I'm doing stock. I'm stocking shelves. And I'm making more than I was at Dwayne Reed, but I still want more. So what do? Well, I work hard. And then at one point, I make sure that my bosses realize and value my work. And then I go up to them at some point after some months. And it's several months. But I go to them. It's less than a year. I go to them and say, hey, I would like to change departments. I would like to go to customer service. And my supervisors say, hey, that's great. That sounds, yeah, we're all for it because they like my work. And they realize, hey, if I'm willing to do something that is of increased importance, okay, good. That bodes well for my longevity at the company. Unfortunately, the VP of the company saw it differently. She didn't think I was worth it and that I should go from stock. She didn't value my work. She didn't value me. She didn't think I was capable of going from stock to customer service. Cool. I go ahead, find another job, provide my 2-week notice. At this point, HR comes to me and says, hey, wait. Before you leave, we'd like to talk to you, and we'd like you to go to customer service now. So now that I have another opportunity, now that I have another job, now they want to give me the job. I ultimately didn't take the job because, hey, I was making more at the new job anyway. But the point is power. When you have options, you have power. When you have more skills, you give yourself the ability to choose where you will go. Because the simple fact is, what they're not talking about, even with the increasing the wage, what they're not talking about is the effect it's going to have on workers. So you increase minimum wage to $15 an hour. Guess what happens to your workload? Workloads are doubling and tripling. The bosses and managers are micromanaging and are now watching everything you're doing. It's making the job environment much more stressful. So much for dignity, and the fact that you still haven't upgraded your skills, so you're still at the mercy of whomever your company is, doesn't equal power. But you know who has power? They do. Because anytime you need something done now, you still need to turn to them. If you want power, it's going to take skills. It's going to take knowledge, and it's going to take you being able to have the choice and the ability to go where you want to go. And if people don't want to pay you what you're worth, what your work is worth, they don't value your contributions, you can go elsewhere. That's power. Or you can start your own thing. That's real power. So every time we talk about the increase of the minimum wage, we'll talk about how it will increase prices. And the proponents of the minimum wage increase will say, no, that's a lie. They're fear mongering. Prices won't go up. AOC was selling sweatshirts for $58. And she was getting criticized. Oh, why are these sweatshirts so expensive? And she's like, oh, well, I have to charge that because we don't use slave wage labor. Oh, so you pay your the employees more, so the prices of the products are more. This is what they don't want to tell you. This is one of the things they don't want to tell you. This is one of the things she showed us in living color is going to happen. She showed us right now. The CBO has predicted this. The CBO has said this is what's going to happen. Prices of goods and services will increase. People want to lie and say, no, that's not going to happen. She's showing you it's happening already. So in this company, whatever company she's buying it from, the wages are more, and so she has to charge higher prices for you to buy the shirts, the sweatshirts. So if you're the individual who is making more money, you may say, well, it doesn't mean that I'll still be making more money, so I'll be able to afford it. And as long as the prices don't rise at the same rate, cool. But what about everybody who's not making $15 an hour, who's not making minimum wage? The people who are already above $15 an hour will now be poorer. Their money will now be worth less. They will now lose money, and that's what the CBO said would happen. The middle class will be hurt by this. But these proponents of the $15 minimum wage don't want you to know that and will pretend that there aren't going to be any unintended consequences. But they know it's going to happen. And they're lying to us all. See this thing about these Republicans talking about how they made minimum wage in the 60s or whatever? Yeah, that's ridiculous. Simple fact is, though, that's not my story. When I told you about me working at Dwayne Reed, that wasn't in the 80s. That wasn't the 90s. That was 2015. 2015, I came back to New York. got a minimum wage job, and it took me 30 days to be on an interview with a better paying job. 30 days. Don't let anybody tell you you have to settle for minimum wage. Stop. She will tell you this. These proponents of the $15 minimum wage will tell you this so that you don't solve your own problems. Why? Because then you need to go to them to solve them for you. And they're not actually going to solve them. They're just going to kick the can down the road. See, here it is again, that financial struggle is due to poor character. No, it's not about poor character. It's about poor education. See, but she wants to make it seem that if somebody's saying you're struggling financially, they're attacking your character. No. I'm attacking the education. She wants to make it about you instead of who it's really about. It's about them. It's about the government's failure to educate people. It's about the government's failure to do what it's supposed to do, or what it claims it's supposed to do in these 13 years of government mandated education. It's not about poor character. It's about poor education. And that poor education doesn't reflect on you. It reflects on them. And they don't want you looking at them. So they will distract you. They will do everything to draw your attention away from the fact that they have failed you. And of course, AOC is not the only person who's advocating for this. Bernie Sanders here telling the lie that federal minimum wage will not pay, people can't survive on it in other states, which is a lie because there are other states which have much lower cost of living. Of course, raising the minimum wage will hurt people who are making more than the minimum wage because it will drastically raise the cost of living. This is what is being warned in the CBO report. So, I mean, I'm urging people to pay attention to and even if you don't believe me, when you see people pushing for this, ask these questions. Ask them, why aren't you just helping people get better jobs so that they can solve their own problems, so that they can have skill sets to choose where they go? Ask them these questions. Ask them why aren't they promoting better education? Why are people graduating from high school and only able to get minimum wage work? Why is that? Why is nobody talking about these things? Why are they not talking about what the effect it's going to have on prices of goods and services? Ask them these questions. Don't let them keep lying to you. Ask them how you staying at a crappy job with increased workloads gives you more dignity and power. Ask them. Ask them these questions. Because they will lie to you because they have an agenda. They want more power. They want you to be able to have to turn to them to help you. That's what they want. They don't want you to be able to solve these problems on your own and to have true power. Because like I said, it's not even just about getting a better job. It's about being at a point where you are so financially successful, you don't need a job. There's better sources of income than working for somebody else. Thank you for checking out this episode of Escape the Echo Chamber. As always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.